Welcome, sensitive hearts and seekers of nuance, to the quiet core of our community. Welcome to Secrets Behind the Stars. Settle in with me for a moment, let the din of the day subside, and let's lean into a story that asks more of us than a passing glance. What we're about to explore isn't ordinary chatter, it's a winding path through trust, perception, and the fragile grace of two people choosing dignity while the crowd demands spectacle. Before we dive, a small favor that keeps this space alive. Subscribe if you haven't yet, tap the bell, and if you feel moved to push this kind of thoughtful gossip into the spotlight, the subscribe button is also your gateway to our inner circle. A like and your words in the comments are how you claim your seat in this conversation. Now, are you ready to look beneath the surface? Sometimes silence stretches so far it turns into a roar. That's how it felt these days while the public stared into the deliberate quiet around actor Barış's Baktas and made it say what they wanted. No frantic reposts. No impulsive notes dropped into the void. No combative quotes. His stillness itself became a character in the tale, a poised figure at center stage, causing everyone to lean forward, waiting for a cue. It started with seconds, only seconds, a tiny slice of time captured in the blur of a crowded venue, where bass lines thumped like a wild pulse and the light dissolved into haze. From somewhere in that fog, the sharp eye of a phone caught a glimpse, Barış leaning in, speaking into a young woman's ear, faces close, shoulders grazing, a frame open to 1,000 meanings. There was no beginning, no end, no audio track to anchor it. Just a fragment cut free from context, a silhouette that anyone could dress in the fabric of their instincts, fears, or fantasies. That single cutaway image rocketed across feeds, and with it, judgments. Then came the evening that cracked the ice. Under the glare of brand lights, at an event for a label he represents, beneath cameras waiting like hunters at the edge of a clearing, Barış Baktas stepped into the crosshairs and finally addressed the questions drifting like smoke. He appeared worn at the edges but not defeated, his energy measured, his gaze calm, his presence steady as if each word had been tested, gently turned, and chosen with intention. When he opened his mouth, he didn't lash out, didn't throw accusations, didn't drag anyone into a made-for-clicks showdown. He allowed the room to breathe with him. He reminded everyone of something we too often forget in the swirl of instant opinion: you cannot bottle intention inside a single frame. You cannot map meaning from one angle and call it a map of the world. He drew a boundary and did it without theatrics. He would not turn his private life into a ledger for strangers. He would not submit personal ties for audit because a clip begged for a conclusion. He would not harvest screenshots or testimonies to placate a hunger that never ends. And though he didn't say her name, you could feel it land in the room like a familiar rhythm. The steady, luminous presence of Yağmur Yüksel, the woman the audience has long connected to his heart. Friends of Secrets Behind the Stars, pause with me. In his place, who among us would have kept that composure? Who would have burned with anger and who would have chosen the cooler light? Must every step of a public figure be accounted for like a line item? Is privacy now a relic we only reference in sentimental tones? You know the drill. Tell me your truth in the comments. And if this reflection resonates, make sure you're subscribed so the conversation reaches the people who need it. A close friend of Barış, speaking softly and anonymously so as not to throw another log on the fire, shared something that felt painfully human. The sting wasn't the strangers heckling from faraway seats, it was the ache that comes when trust itself begins to tremble, when nameless people start drafting the script of your life in bold letters, and those letters cut. Imagine building a future on loyalty and watching it be rewritten by a device that never recorded the beginning or the end of the exchange. Imagine seeing old friendships, those woven through years, reshaped into weapons by those who never touched the thread. That, the friend said, is what unsettled him most, not the noise, but the way the noise tried to colonize what is sacred. After his carefully weighted words, the storm didn't stop so much as change shape. Comment sections shifted like tides along a stubborn shore. There were those who dug in deeper, demanding more proof, booster shots of so-called evidence no one is obligated to supply. Others made the uneasy turn toward humility. They took a breath, admitted they were too quick, and recognized that rumor had swaggered around like truth. The split wasn't neat, it never is. But the sound changed. From condemnation to contemplation, from a chorus of judgment to something like listening, uneasy but present. Threaded through his statement was a larger insistence: boundaries still have meaning. Even when the world wants a front row seat, the stage remains a choice. He would not force anyone else into the spotlight to save himself. He would not open doors that were never meant to be public just to quiet the crowd. He reminded everyone that being visible does not equal being owned, and that love is not theater just because the faces are familiar. We're left with a horizon of possible next pages. Maybe the woman seen in the clip will speak and echo the ordinary truth he implied. Maybe the moment will be allowed to remain what it likely was, a passing exchange miscast as scandal, and he will hold his silence, protecting a bond and a friendship that doesn't need public staging to exist. Maybe another angle of the same instance will surface, or maybe this is all that will ever be. Either way, one thing feels firm: Barış didn't bat away the accusation with frantic spin. He chose a steadier road. He met provocation with restraint, and pressure with empathy, offering truth without a sideshow. That choice now lingers in the public air like a reminder of what we could be when we stop feasting on fragments. Because this was never just about a few seconds in a noisy room. It is about how eagerly we sharpen images into blades. It is about the race to leap from possibility to verdict, and how long it takes to clean the wound even when an explanation comes. It's about the rituals we've normalized: refresh, repost, react, and the cost of those rituals on people who are more than the roles they play. People close to the couple say that offline, the temperature is lower than the internet would have you believe. Friends check in with jokes and quiet reassurances. Families hold their ground like old trees, whispering that what is real remains real. Work continues. Mornings arrive on time. The life that existed before the clip still exists, maybe bruised at the edges but not broken through. This is the part that rarely trends: the patient rhythm of ordinary days, the small mercies that bind two people when cameras aren't there to claim them. You can weather a storm not because it is painless, but because your anchor is stronger than the wind. As the outrage cycle tires itself out, the timeline alters shape. Where condemnation came fast, there's now a pause that wasn't there before. Where the hunger for scandal roared, there's a softer admission: perhaps what we saw was too little to earn a sentence. His honesty didn't erase criticism, it redirected the eye. It reminded everyone that context is not a triviality, it is the difference between rumor and reality. And so we circle back to the origin. A sliver of video, a rush to decide, and a man who chose not to turn his heart into content. If more is said, we'll listen. If nothing else arrives, we will sit with this and resist the compulsion to fill silence with fiction. What holds steady is the principle behind his stance, and the unshowy devotion with which Yağmur keeps moving, to the set, to the dinner table, to the text bubbles that say, "I'm here." Their connection has lived through attention before. It can live through this too, if we let it breathe and stop pressing our faces to the glass. Here is the part you don't see on a dashboard: the way they lean into their routine on a Tuesday, the way laughter insists on being heard even after the headlines, the way love chooses to be ordinary as an act of resilience. In quieter hours, he retraces the event and sees what everyone missed: the beginning, a greeting lost to music; the end, a parting wave blurred by light. Details that never made the cut because fragments are easier to feed upon. In quieter hours, she drawing breaths through the noise, choosing steadiness instead of performance, choosing a text over a post, a conversation over a press release, respect over clicks. And maybe that is what unsettles us most, that the real work of love is almost always invisible. Which brings us to you, dear friends of Secrets Behind the Stars. Where do you stand now? Do you hold space for doubt and patience? Or does suspicion still insist on the microphone? Say what you think, calmly, honestly, in the comments, because your voice shapes this room. Subscribe if you want this kind of layered look to keep existing in an uproar world. Support us through subscribe if you believe restraint has a place in the culture of talking. Share this video if you think a steadier narrative deserves the algorithm's attention. Thank you for staying long enough to hear beyond the noise, for letting the story breathe where hot takes would suffocate it. Until the next time we gather here under this light, until the next truth that asks us to pause, remember this. Trust is fragile but not helpless. Privacy is not a luxury but a need, and two people can hold their ground even when the ground seems to shift. Tonight, let that be enough. And if another angle appears, we'll meet it without haste, with the same careful eyes, with respect for what we do not know. Until then, may your timelines be kinder, may your curiosity be brave enough to wait, and may Barış Baktas and Yağmur keep owning the right to decide what parts of their life belong to them and them alone.